Space, like the final frontier, man. These are the voyages of the hip Starship Enterprise.
Captain, permission to beam Lawrence Ferlinghetti aboard.
Permission like granted. Where are we headed, man?
To, like, the planet Bungo.
They were the lonely voices of dissent in the 1950s, outsiders and proud of it. They were the artists who called themselves Beats.
Hear the sound, hear the sound. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Balachate, Sputnik, H-bomb, explosion, explosion, explosion. Bang!
There's been a revival of interest in the Beat generation. Poetry readings are back, being performed at coffee houses straight out of the 50s. Even MTV now has poetry programs that would make Jack Kerouac proud.
The sense of a status quo, business as usual, a kind of stolid, even comfort.
That it's the fattest civilization around, the best ever. And in reality, there was an incredible provincialism and a very strong sense of conformity and a stultifying feeling that you had to get along with Life magazine, as you know what Ginsberg says. I don't want my emotional life to be read by Time.
Eisenhower's intention was that we should try to settle down to some nice, quiet American pursuits and not rock the boat. And it was time for us to ease off a bit. He accomplished that. The country was pretty quiet.
In the 40s, the bomb dropped. The entire planet was threatened biologically. It was suddenly the realization, why are we being intimidated by a bunch of jerks who don't know anything about life? Who are they to tell us what we feel and how we're supposed to behave? And why take all that bullshit?
We're at Columbia University now, and the connection here with the Beats is that this is where Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg met, and the catalytic reaction began that became the Beat movement, and that was one of the forces that helped create and I think shape the movements of the 1960s. Now, Kerouac comes down from your own fair state of Massachusetts, from Lowell. He's a working class guy. From a very early age is interested in writing. He is a great football player at Lowell's, and they offered him a football scholarship. The man who shook up America with the Beat movement basically began as a jock until he hurts his leg. And at that point, he meets Allen Ginsberg from Paterson, New Jersey, father, high school teacher, poet of minor note. And they're not talking too much about football. They were interested in something very corny, trying to find truth and meaning in life.
We weren't trying to make a social revolution particularly. We were just trying to propose our own souls to ourselves.
Were they lovers?
We felt very close to each other, just intuitively, but, you know, without any overt sexual thing, except that I was in love with him. I had a crush on him, I had a crush on everybody.
They found African-American culture fascinating. They related to weird people like William Burroughs.
Jack and I went out to investigate your soul. We both really thought you were real interesting and dignified and weird, but intelligent. Jack said, Bill's the most intelligent man in America.
Did they take a lot of drugs?
Did they take a lot of drugs?
Cannabis, datura, coca. They had a habit, man.
Kept me occupied.
They were searching. They were searching. They knew they weren't satisfied with what was. And that's why we're here at Columbia, trying to inhale the atmosphere that once nurtured people who dared to be different.
It was such a schizophrenic distinction between the private world of what everybody knew and talked about, like black culture or tea-head culture of those years, or just sexual culture or gay culture. There were all these marginalized cultures which were never represented in public.
It was friendship, affairs, intermarriage, and a sense of a community. They were the jazz musicians, and they were related to the abstract expressionists.
It's all insane. Then you look back, you look away, around, everything is coming in from everywhere in the sound of the jazz.
Hi, hey.
We were our own audience. I mean, Kerouac wrote 7 books, or 14 books before they were published.
We were more or less united, I would say, towards increased awareness, increased freedom.
There were little connections that were making and they were building. What you had here, as near as I can tell, was a collection or a gathering of very, very great intelligence.
Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground is the model of a lot of these people, the guy who lives in some kind of hole and rails at what's going on around him. Many of us, without knowing Dostoevsky, thought that was our role.
To write poetry, to write music, to paint, to act, to dance, to dare to dream.